We were told our husbands should be our everything, our best friend, our lover, our emotional anchor, our confidant, the person who knew us most completely and loved us anyway. One person who could hold all of it, every version of us, every need, every mood, every fear we had never said out loud. And I believed it. For a very long time, I believed it. What I want to talk about today is what I found when I stopped. The myth of the all-in-one. There is a particular cultural story about marriage that my generation inherited and largely swallowed whole. The story goes, the right partner completes you. They are your soulmate, your mirror, your home. Everything you need emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, it should flow from this one relationship. If it does not, something is wrong with your marriage or something is wrong with you. I spent years inside that story, years trying to get my marriage to be what the story said it should be, years wondering why the person I shared a life with could not quite reach the parts of me that needed reaching. Years quietly concluding that the gap was my fault, that I was too needy, too complicated, too much. What I understand now, and what I wish someone had told me much earlier, is that the expectation itself was the problem. Not the marriage, not me, the story. Because here is the truth about human beings. We are not one thing. We are many things. And no single person, no matter how much they love us, can speak fluently to every one of them. We contain contradictions. We have versions of ourselves that only emerge in specific kinds of company. We have needs that require a particular kind of witness, someone who knew us before the roles accumulated, before we became wife and mother and colleague and caretaker. Asking one person to be all of that is not romance. It is an impossible weight, and the person we place it on will eventually buckle under it, just as we will buckle under the guilt of needing more than they can give, what the platonic gaze gives you. My closest friends have known me for decades. Some of them knew me before I was married, before I had children, before I became the person I spent most of my adult life being. And there is something that happens in a conversation with a woman who has known you that long. Something that does not happen in the same way anywhere else. She looks at you and she sees the whole timeline, not just who you are right now, in this season, with these worries and this face and these responsibilities. She sees who you were at 26 and what you wanted then, and the way your laugh has not changed since university, and the version of you that existed before the years layered over you. She holds your history in a way that your husband, who met you at 34, simply cannot. That gaze, I have come to think of it as the platonic gaze, is one of the most sustaining things I know. It is a form of intimacy that is different from the intimacy of marriage, but not lesser than it. It is the intimacy of being fully known across time. There is also something else that friendship offers, which I will call unburdened safety. When I talk to my closest friends, the stakes are different. There is no shared mortgage. There is no history of unresolved arguments. There is no fear that what I say tonight will be misread and surface 3 weeks later in a different conversation. I can be honest without calculating the domestic consequences of my honesty. I can be uncertain without it threatening the structure of anything. That freedom to speak without the weight of everything that is also at stake produces a different quality of conversation, a different quality of listening. My friends can hold what I say with a kind of pure attention that is genuinely harder inside a marriage, where what you say always lands in a context. When the home goes quiet, I want to say something about a specific kind of loneliness that I think many women of my generation have experienced and very few have named directly. It is the loneliness of being in a marriage and feeling invisible within it. Not unloved, necessarily. Not in crisis. Just unseen. Your husband is in the next room. You eat dinner together. You discuss logistics. You share a life in every practical sense. And still there is a part of you, the more complicated part, the part that notices things and thinks about them and needs to talk them through that never quite gets addressed. That part learns, over time, to stay quiet. The specific pain of this kind of loneliness is that it is very hard to name without sounding ungrateful. You have a marriage, you have a home. What exactly are you missing? And so most women carry it silently for years, assuming it is their own unreasonable want for too much. But it is not too much. It is the natural human need to be witnessed. And some of what gets witnessed most reliably in our lives is not witnessed by our spouses. It is witnessed by the women who have sat across a table from us through every decade of our lives and seen us clearly every time. Those friendships did not fail to be marriages. They succeeded at being something else, something essential, something that a marriage cannot replace and was never meant to. And I think we do both relationships a disservice when we rank them, when we treat friendship as the backup, the secondary, the thing we fit in around the edges of the real relationship. Because what gets lost in that hierarchy is the recognition of what friendship actually is. A relationship with its own depth, its own history, its own form of love. The woman who has held your secrets for 30 years and never once made you feel like a burden for having them, she is not your backup plan. She is one of the great loves of your life, and she deserves to be named as such. The decentralized heart. Here is something that changed the way I understood my own life. I stopped thinking of my marriage as the center of my emotional universe and my friendships as orbiting around it at a distance. I started thinking of my emotional life as something that has many centers, many sources of nourishment, many relationships that each give me something real and specific and irreplaceable. My marriage gives me some things. My friendships give me other things. Neither is a substitute for the other. Both are necessary. When I made that shift from a single center to many centers, something relaxed. The pressure on my marriage decreased because I was no longer asking it to do everything. And paradoxically, what it could do well became more visible because I had stopped measuring it against everything it could not do. I also stopped feeling guilty about how much my friendships meant to me. For years, I had a quiet, unexamined sense that needing my friends so much meant something was lacking in my marriage. That a properly functioning marriage should be enough. That turning to my friends for the intimacy I was not finding at home was a kind of disloyalty. It was not. It was health. It was the completely reasonable act of a woman finding what she needed where it actually existed, rather than continuing to look for it where it did not. What I want to say to you, if you are listening to this and recognizing something, if some part of you is nodding along quietly because you have spent years wondering why your marriage cannot give you what your friends seem to give you so easily, I want to say this clearly. You are not asking for too much. You are not broken. Your marriage is not necessarily failing. You may simply be a person who needs more than one source of deep connection. Most of us are, if we are honest about it. The sisterhoods in your life are not the consolation prize. They are not what you turn to when the marriage does not deliver. They are primary. They are load-bearing. They are part of the architecture of a life that actually sustains you. Protect them. Invest in them. Show up for the women who show up for you. Make time for the friendships that have held you across decades, even when life gets crowded, and the easy thing is to let them drift. Because the intimacy you find there, the kind that knows your whole history and holds you without stakes, that is not a lesser thing than what marriage offers. It is a different thing. And for many of us, it is the thing that has kept us most fully ourselves. That is not a failure. That is a life. If this landed somewhere real for you, please share it with a woman in your life who needs to hear it. And if you are not already here, subscribe, because this is exactly what we talk about on this porch. I am Patricia, and I will see you next week.